Salute to everybody that's supported. Remember, if you want to check out this episode or the last episode I recorded, please tap in to Spotify for listeners. They now have something for podcasters, so make sure you check out Spotify for listeners. But let's talk about this man, Charleston White. Charleston White, as y'all know, is a very dope personality going on in the community. I think I've talked about him a few times before on my podcast. But he had an incident that was filmed recently where he was, Charleston White went on campaign disrespecting individuals, wishing for death of individuals. And oftentimes I hear people say that they respect his message and what he says. And on a surface level, you may give him the credit of saying that because, hey, this nigga spitting. He's saying shit about gang culture and criticizing the notion of gang culture. The problem when we have these reductionist arguments, or we have these arguments that are like surface level, and what I mean by surface level, when we have these, hold on, what's going on, everybody? Motherfucking Nerd Rap Podcast. We are now on Anchor.fm. Just started recording, so make sure y'all tune in. You know what I mean? Show love if you want to. You feel me? But Charleston White, talk about this nigga Charleston White, man, because I ain't gonna lie to you. They was showing son. He got into an incident where he was talking shit to some nigga. I don't go fuck. You don't call how it goes. Call the police. I guess dude pulled a gun. He gets to snitching. He's like, yo, whatever. I'm a civilian. Think he handed the gun. His gang banging buddy. They surrounded me. I have a multitude of problems with that scenario. I have a multitude of problems with Charleston White openly weaponizing the police against black folk. Recently, I was doing some investigation in the police after, the Rasheen Carter murder. Yes, he was murdered. He was murdered by the police. Ain't no way that you accidentally drowned in a fucking river and you were found decapitated upon an investigative autopsy done separately by the family. He was murdered, and the cops are covering up. They're protecting somebody. He texted his mother that he was basically being chased, and they're harassing him. It's about to go down. And Charleston White, the type of person that weaponized the very same institution of people that have been one of the greatest plights against black people since their inception. Make no mistake about it, gang culture is a detriment to our community. Gang culture is a detriment to my community. The rampant crime rate, the gangster culture in our community. But you know what 99% of that's a byproduct of? Poverty. You know what else is a byproduct of that poverty? The institutions that are funded to go toward the militarization and funding of police versus social programs that prevent children from running to the streets in the first place. And for somebody who is all for helping the prisoners and trying to save these babies, but then meanwhile you're wishing death upon other niggas' children, talking about raping niggas' daughters, raping women, Mexican women, and all these disgusting things you say, these generalizations you make of saying, we naturally can make love better, and these black eugenics you believe in, you some people give you the pass to say he's saying the truth. He's saying a bunch of bullshit. His truth is of a self-hating black man who projects the same rhetoric that a typical conservative pushes against black people. He inherently believes we're all violent. He inherently believes we're stupid. He say I don't do shit for niggas, F niggas. He says this all the time. Fuck niggas, fuck niggas. Y'all be praising gang culture. And the irony of how he talks about it, he only talks to a specific subgenre of black people. He doesn't talk to the black person that's a civilian. He doesn't say, yo, this culture in our community is an issue. He doesn't do that. And I think the bigger problem is when we have these people who get on these pedestals and want to just admonish black culture and black men in particular, is that, again, we like to use surface level arguments that other people use to be in protest of our community. We like to protest the violence in rap music, and rap music is simply the reflection of the environment of the people rapping it. So the person rapping this rap music is coming from an environment where there's food deserts, where there's no food, living conditions are horrible, and the police are incentivized to get arrested even if there's no They're incentivized to get arrested even if they don't go to court, or even if these don't lead to convictions, because they still get paid for the stats of getting arrested in the papers. So some of these cops are either overly proactive in getting arrested because they get double pay if they get enough to fill up the docket and fill the docket for court. So some of them get paid just to have a bunch of fucking arrests. That's how a lot of people get promotions. That's how these guys get jobs, and that's why cops protect them. Because on one hand, you're gonna sit here and admonish him for him putting his hands on people, beating people's asses, this, then, and third. But he's getting the department results. He's getting their numbers high. And when people come to do a disclosure of consent, where they're trying to have oversight for the police, then what they have to do is they have to go to the Supreme Court and basically meet a certain bit of guidelines for changes that they're mandated to do. But due to basically recent pushes, McConnell, I forgot the guy's name, he was a Republican senator. Right before he exited, one of his last things he destroyed was the level of oversight that the discourse of consent, I believe, has. So what that does in turn, it limits the amount of oversight that cops, basically the federal government can have over a particular police department. And I say that to say that in turn allows the rampant corruption, the rampant violence that goes on and within the institution of police. Period. The institution of police incentivizes the oppression of people. And for any black man who, just like Charleston White, you antagonize a particular group of people, you antagonize the street guys, you're critical of them, which I think we have a right to be from our community. But to be critical of them and not have the understanding of the circumstances that created them is why he can go on vitriolic rants about murder, about these niggas deserve to die. When most of these people, they were born in third world conditions. They were born in a borderline. This is a totalitarian world that we live in. I know we try to fancy it up and pretty it up, but other countries have direct dictatorships where freedom of speech is taken from them. You gotta understand that this country has those rules because it was built for a particular group of people to have more freedom. Like, for the Europeans to have more freedom. And those Europeans basically built a society looking at how the Arabs justified the slavery of their African slaves as saying that they were inferior and they were superior and we were inferior. Europeans then looked at that establishment of racism, and they were able to build an entire hierarchy of society based on those beliefs and systems. 90% of the institution of this country is built on racism, 5% on classism, the rest is pure sadistic violence. So for Charleston White to antagonize black men, to reinforce stereotypes of black men, and then to wish violence and mayhem, to promote certain stereotypes of black men and the way he talks, your community work means nothing. Nothing. I've saluted you previously for doing community work, but the more and more I go into research in my socio-political bag, and I start looking at, getting back on my timing again, of getting more inclined to be far more critical of certain individuals in our community. Charleston White is definitely a menace. Charleston White is definitely a problem in the community. Other people may not care personally for what he's doing. They may find some semblance of sense with him being so aggressive towards black men and saying, "Oh, it's just tough love." It's not tough love when it's ignorance based on stereotypes and lies. And what makes me mad about someone like him is he's given a platform. And for those who don't know better, it sounds like a lot of sense. Hell, when I first listened to him, I said, "Yo, you say some shit that's valid," and it is valid. And if you look at it from the perspective of conservatives, if you look at it from the perspective of somebody who believes in who believes in certain stereotypes of black people, you believe inherently that we're violent, and you blame the rap music. There's rock songs talk about rape and murder. Hell, there's a rock band that had John Wayne Gacy's fucking paintings, and he used to paint their album covers. He's painting people's pictures. He was a child murderer. So I'm not really following where we make the correlation between rap and violence, but we don't want to ask the real question of who was responsible for that correlation between black men being a certain way and the violence in our music, and the fact that that was a manufactured thing from the jump. The moment we gave our culture and put it in the hands of other individuals that don't look like us, that sold us that image. We don't focus on the rap music that isn't fitting into that image because it's not viable. Because again, the people that are selling that have a particular view of blackness they want to see. And it's not our view of blackness, it's everyone else's view of blackness. And in that other view of blackness, there's niggas who see that view and they form their entire opinion about their community based on a largely fabricated image. Are there men who act like that? Yes. Are there men of every goddamn racial demographic that acts stoic, has no emotions, is quick to violence, is a woman? Yes. The difference is that an entire culture was not defined by the particular imagery of a particular race like hip hop has been since it has been conceived in the 70s. It's just frustrating when we allow these people with these coon, these self-hating, uh, holier than thou model citizen Negro mentalities where he's just so violently against anything black. He's so violently against it. He's so violently against a particular group of music. He's so violently against black people. And, you're disrespecting people's dead family. You were disrespecting DMX's family. Like, he's dead. He's never spoke on you. I think you came out after he died. Like, I don't. And I guess he's doing this, he called it trolling and people buy into the character. What's a pitiful excuse? I'm trying to say people just buy into the character. What I'm saying, I talk about how the people talk. I think he said in an interview one time he talks like this because he heard, a parent talk to their child and say, "Get your ass over here. The fuck is you doing?" And he said, "You know what? That kid listened, so that's how I adopted it." And a man who is politically inclined took a personal experience and anecdotal information and decided to base his entire approach against a whole community of people based on one instance he had in his life. So you felt that every black person was going to be positively affected by this approach. Like we were going to be more receptive to what you're saying. If he's mad, we're listening. We're listening to you, bro. And the problem is, the more we listen to you, the less we want to hear you anymore. Because you're not talking about the, the inherent issues in the black community. And you're not just saying ways that we can get in the way of these kids before they feel they have to go to the streets. What social program that we could put in place. And my thing is, if that's what you're doing, bro, that's what you have to do. And if you have the power to do so, that's fire. But I still find it very problematic for the statements and views you make towards black people while purporting that you help black children. Because what are you teaching black children? Probably respectable nigga politics. And you're probably one of those type of people that think if they act a certain way, they dress a certain way, they pull their pants up and they cut those dreads off, they'll be respectable citizens and white people will accept them. And let this be a reminder to you, Robert, and no matter how much money you have, you still just a nigga. I think a lot of y'all get slapped with that one day and it fuck your whole life up. Like, you got confused. You thought these other quantifiers that you add to your resume, these other things that you add, makes you somehow non-nigga. Charleston White, you can advocate against the black gangsters all day. You can disrespect black female gangbangers and ask you got fucked in. You could talk about raping people's children and think that it's just a character and I'm just being disrespectful. Listen, bro, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm saying personally, you're just as much of the problem with the social media influencers in the black community that we allow a platform. you're just as much of a problem, and you're actually, to me, more dangerous because a part of you feels like you're altruistic in terms of how you're approaching speaking on certain things in our community. I feel a part of you feels that you have like good intentions, but you just come off crass, where really subconsciously you're a house Negro. You'll be quicker to sell people out to their destruction in the service of good old master. This is in the service of good old master. You talk about, the black women get disrespected in black music every day. Valid. You disrespect black women. You disrespected them when you talk about raping two little black girls. When you was asking all those gangbang girls who probably were black that to get fucked in, being disrespectful. So she's the most disrespected woman in the world, and you contributed to the disrespect. I'm just tired of these semi woke niggas who really were just conservatives who believed in capitalism and wanted to weaponize it for their own benefit. Really, this isn't I was looking into a guy named Lil Bill, and he brought up a term, um, Marx. Looking at more so Marxist socialist. That's what the Black Panther Party actually was. And if you look at it, they were far more communal in terms of free government programs and investing more into social reform and other incentives of public service workers. That that's pretty much what the Black Panthers were. They were very vocal. The black men that were in a chapter when women would basically come in and present their issues, they would openly listen. They would make changes. Um, it was a far more progressive type of group than people want to give credit for. And I think one of the major things that I really would love to see far more is not the ostracization of misogyny, which is actually one of the bigger things that the Black Panther Party actually fought for, which is the irony, is women's rights and black women's autonomy and a certain way of treating black women and addressing black women's issues. That was actually a big thing amongst it, because again, a lot of the Black Panther Party were women. A lot of them were women. You'd be surprised, and a lot of them had very high positions in the Black Panther Party too. They weren't just foot soldiers like people like to act like all the leaders were dudes. Mm-mm. A lot of them were women. And I say all that to say, granted, I just feel that Charleston White's one of those people. Like, he's from Texas, and sometimes they're really going hard. Them Florida going hard about removing certain things out of history. I don't want more people thinking history is like Charleston White does. I don't trust Charleston White. I don't trust what textbook you read on Black history. I don't trust it, because you gave me real chucking and jiving vibes. You give me real Sambo vibes, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. Real Sambo vibes, bro. Um, real Sambo vibes, man. I can't be mad all the way, because a part of me has to just someone understand that there's a lot of people who resonate with Charleston White because their level of understanding, in terms of the nuances of racial politics. They would assume that racial politics is pretty much, like a component of classism, when racist politics are the primary foundation for the classism that exists in this country, as well as the other isms that contribute to the oppression of people of minority status, and a lot of lies that people like Charleston White often believe that were taught by these conservative talking points of white conservatives or black conservatives. And I just don't know how he's given a platform being this aggressively disrespectful towards children. This is the second time I've heard this man talk about violating children. Between the Mexican ladies, talk about raping, R wording, excuse me. I just feel, he's he's growing to become a problem to me. personally. And he makes it a habit of calling out problematic people in the community. I respect that. Just hopefully he respects it when it is directed towards him as well. Charleston White is not a savior. He's not a black revolutionary. He is a byproduct of hundreds of years of pushing certain narratives of black people, pushing narratives of our spending power, or that looking into it was reported by a nigga who went to Howard, and we look at the history books of Howard. He never went to Howard, so some lady basically lied and said some nigga told her in the '90s about a $1 billion spending power that the black community has, or $1 trillion of spending power, but that number has never been confirmed. So in the meantime, we've been weaponized and lied to believe that we could just work our way and get up off our bootstraps. And niggas like Charleston White believe this wholeheartedly. They believe it. They internalize those beliefs. They believe that black people are a certain way, and niggas ask for the shit that comes their way, and that's just how he is, because we're a monolith and niggas. So that's what I have to say about Charleston White. I think he's a house Negro. I think when Master comes in the room, he does the chuck and dance. Found it really disgusting when the officer came there. He started acting like he was crying. Please, officer, please. It was already pusillanimous. I don't even know how to say that word. It was already P word. Let's just say that. It was already P word that you was out there copping plea when the cops came. You already telling on niggas. Mind you, you was just arguing with the nigga the same thing. But then when he came out and he wanted to tell, I mean, if he pulled a gun, I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you. Feel me? I ain't about to get shot, and I'm somewhere by myself, and you know what I mean? He was scared. He thought he was gonna get done like 6ix9ine just got done. 6ix9ine got his ass beat in the bathroom, but I'm not wasting time talking about that. He deserved it. But I'll just say this to end it off. Charleston White, whatever you do in the community, let's get back to that. Let's get back to people just showing their best foot forward in terms of their content and what they provide to the table. I would love for you to do videos on your nonprofit organizations and the things you do for Texas teens. I think that would be far more not only beneficial, but I could argue that I'd much rather see I'd just much rather see that personally. But that's all I got to say, really. I build Gundams and shit. I gotta buy a new one this weekend. But it's a motherfucking Nerd Rap podcast. Again, I do appreciate you guys. Just tune in when you guys get the chance. I just like posting these videos. I have them cataloged, but deuces. I'll leave this shit. Oh, that's that. Okay.